You're listening to She's the Business podcast.
Okay, I'm so excited. Welcome, Dorothy, to the podcast. Now, I'm really excited about today's episode because we're going to talk all about confidence in sales. And I think that, I'm going to stand here and say for all of us, myself included, confidence around sales is something I'd say probably we don't feel it very often, or it's been something that's been a long time coming until we got into that place where we felt confident. I think women in particular, we tend to lack a real confidence around sales. So can't wait to get into this topic. However, before we do that, can you let us know a little bit about who you are and who you serve, how you help them in the business? And then we can dive in.
Sure. So I'm a sales and marketing consultant, which is a nice way of saying most people want to run the opposite direction of me because they hate the sales and they hate the marketing usually when I talk to people. But basically where I come into the mix of helping people out is I help them zero in on their zone of brilliance. It's one of those things that I'm just happen to be really good on. So it's defining the difference or defining the intersection, I should say, between what they're really passionate about and what will help them make money. Because a lot of people are really at the edge of their zone of excellence, but haven't quite hit their zone of brilliance. And that makes things a lot easier. I also help people simplify and increase their sales. And then I help them get all their fancy funnels and their copywriting done, because that's a lot of stuff that helps us to systematize a little bit and automate what we can and work a lot less in our business and more on our business and grow our sales and things like that. So that's what I do for my clients.
Yeah, amazing. That is all exactly what we need to be spending less time actually working on the business and more time doing other things or actually doing the things that move the needle in the business, right? So I really like that. And, I think the zone of brilliance, what a great idea, because, I think so often we're told, go follow your passion, start a business that's your passion. It's like, well, not every passion that you have is necessarily a great business idea, or maybe it is, but it might not be the best one for you, right? Because there's so many ways that we can make money. We could do things around passions, hobbies, all sorts of stuff. But I think it's like knowing what's the difference between a business and something that you're going to do for your pleasure and enjoyment, which is really more like a hobby. So such a great, I think, perspective to have on that zone of brilliance. Where is it that you're really going to shine for your business? Because it's not everywhere. It's not everywhere that you've got expertise, is it?
It's really true. One of the things that I think is really important for people to understand, especially like in the midst of your business, if you start getting feeling that you're overwhelmed or you're overworked or you're stressed out or you're just not motivated anymore, or in the beginnings of your business when you're really excited about it and you're all fired up, is this something that you can do when things get tough? Is this something that you'll go to your grave thinking, I'm really glad I did that. I couldn't live with myself if I didn't. Or is it something that you are passionate and excited about right now, which is hard for us as women? We're typically multi-passionate, right? We have a lot of things going. So thinking about it in that way, what's got longevity, what's got legs, what can we stick with, what will keep us, close to the rock and able to push through when it feels like a lot of work. Because in the beginnings and in launches and lots of different phases of your business, it's not going to feel awesome. So if you're not passionate about it, if it doesn't mean a lot to you, oh boy, it can be a lot of work.
Yeah, totally. I've been in those shoes. And I think it's so interesting when you look at the difference between excitement because you're doing something new and you've got that like spark of joy and, you've got all that motivation, is quite different to really what's in your soul. Like what is there that you're like, I absolutely love, I could live and breathe this day in, day out. I will never get sick of talking about it. I could talk about it all day long. That is just my thing. There's a real difference there. And I think that a lot of the time it's easy. And I know I'm speaking from experience because I did this myself, but to confuse the excitement of like, I see an opportunity, I see something that I could think would be a really great opportunity. There's so much potential there. Oh my goodness. And to like be following that, which is really about there's a market opportunity, there's a way to make money there, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's the right thing for you to do. And yeah, I did that. I tried it. I weirdly, it's a strange story. I'll just go off on a slight tangent because, it's always funny to share some little anecdotes.
Please do, Jessica.
I started an online wedding dress business in 2010, and I don't even like weddings that much or dresses, and I don't sew. So I just saw this massive opportunity because at the time I was and planning to get married and getting frustrated with what was available and like how you had to do it. And I was like, this is just crap. Someone needs to come in and change the way that it's being done because I'm not happy with the options that I've got or, you know, how it all works. And so I started this online business to create custom wedding dresses. And I did it. It worked. It was fine. But I realized really quickly that I had no passion about weddings. I didn't care about them. I could not care less about dresses. And here I was, trying to run this business and having no interest in it was a major issue because I really just couldn't care less about it. I couldn't care less about it. Which is weird, right? Because the opportunity and the potential is so great. And that only got bigger as, I kind of proved that it was a real opportunity.
It's a viable market.
Totally. It was actually working. It was making money. And I still had I had no interest in it. So anyway, I sold it. But that was my little tangent story. So just to prove that point, yes, we can sometimes be completely sidelined by what we see as an opportunity and potential to make money. But, is that really what you are here to do on this earth?
I did the exact same thing. When I first started on my coaching journey, I had come out of 22 years of sales. That was my career. And so I was running away from corporate. I had a kid on my hip and I did not want to go back to my on-the-road selling job. So I enrolled in a program to teach me how to, live the laptop lifestyle and live freedom, all these things that we all promise and say. And I didn't realize at the time that working on your laptop at the beach is horrid and you can't see your screen, but that's an aside. So I decided, because I'm into personal training and I love nutrition and fitness and all those sorts of things, that I would be a health coach. And so I started out this whole process as a health coach. Wow. And I can remember really not being motivated, like had no desire to get up in the morning and work on my business or do all the posts and stuff like that. And suddenly, as soon as you become that person, you suddenly realize how many health coaches there are out there, right? Whoa, this is a saturated market. Like, what is my differentiator? Like, who am I and how do I stand apart and how do I niche? And all those questions start coming up. And I just didn't really feel motivated to do any of it. But in the coaching program I was in, there was a bunch of women who needed help with sales. Yeah. And so they were reaching out to me to get my help and my support with their sales and their messaging and all this sort of stuff. And I got called out by my coach eventually in a group call, which was a little bit embarrassing. I said, I'm just really struggling. Like, I just don't really want to do this. Like, I get it. I can't motivate myself to get out of bed in the morning and do this health coaching gig. And she's like, why are you doing health coaching? And I was like, well, because I'm interested in nutrition and I'm interested in personal training and fitness. I'm a runner. I've been doing all these things my whole life. I'm really good at it. And she's like, great. So what I've been hearing from everyone in this program is that you're talking to them about their sales and that you have a history of sales and that you're really lit up when you talk about sales. And I'm like, yeah, but I was so certain I wanted to run away from my sales career and that corporate sales were not the thing I ever wanted to touch again, that I was pursuing something completely misaligned as well. Yes. And the universe has a way, right? It'll nudge you right back into the right direction. There's a plan.
So, isn't it? Yeah. That's so similar because I kind of felt the same. I'd done 20 odd years in marketing, and starting this business, I had almost opened a Pilates studio. And then at the last minute, I didn't actually go to the point of doing it, but I had a meeting with someone, like I was really close to doing that because I thought the same as you. I'm like, I want to do something that I really enjoy and, I want to be fit and healthy and done with this whole corporate thing. And then realizing, actually, I'm in the shower and all I'm thinking about is marketing. I'm writing like blogs in my head. I've got all this stuff. And I was like, this is weird, but maybe that's a sign. And I've done this my whole life. I know it. I love it. I breathe it. It's what I didn't love was actually the corporate job and the other people and the limitations on what I could do there because, I had to answer into all these other people. I'm like, well, maybe this is actually what I'm meant to do, but I'm not limited by all these other people. I can actually do it my way and help people, actually help them so much more than what I could ever do just working for one company. So anyway, it's so funny. We're so similar with that.
Entrepreneurs have a rebel spirit, right? We don't want to be told what to do. We want to do it our way. And then we have to learn that some things we have to do the way that we're supposed to do them.
Yeah. And I guess, so talking about that, when then you're doing something that is your true calling. We might call it your zone of brilliance, the thing that maybe is in your soul, that you're here and you're really passionate about. When it comes to sales, does that help build confidence? What do you see the difference in how people are really struggling when they're getting into that sales place? Is it because they're trying to sell something that they don't really believe in, because maybe they're not in their zone of brilliance? Or is it, yes, they're in their zone of brilliance, but there's some other factors that are really impacting them when it comes to actually making a sale? So, yeah. Feel free to take it either direction at the moment.
Yeah, it's an interesting question because I've definitely run into people. I would say your clients end up being a mirror, right? So you're probably used to that a bit. And if you haven't experienced that yet, like the people who are listening, you will, because your clients will always mirror back to you your growth areas, right? So in the beginning, I definitely had some people that I worked with that I would say hadn't quite figured out their zone of brilliance. And so it was helping them, facilitating, guiding, that sort of thing. When I was predominantly coaching and I wasn't yet consulting, I was noticing that there was a lot of people who their confidence was lacking because they were lacking their purpose, they thought. And it's the approach towards purpose, right? Like everything you're doing is building out your life plan and your life purpose and all those sorts of things. And I think a lot of us think it's outside of us, but it's really inside of us. So sometimes it feels uncomfortable, like you're doing something or you're trying to sell something and it feels like you can't be confident about it because you're not confident about it yet.
Yes.
Right. So there's those people, definitely seen them. It definitely affects them. And the question I'm always asking is, okay, so where's the gap in the confidence? What would take you from 0 to hero for somebody else and help you feel confident in it? Is it, I shouldn't be doing this because I'm trying to sell people on how to make complicated websites and I don't really know how. And when I go to ask them for the money to do it and I'm learning it, it feels uncomfortable. Well, what about talking about working with them on a template on a Squarespace site or something like that, right? Like, where can we get it so that you feel really excited and you're like, hey, I'm passionate about you and your business and the messaging you have. And I'm just learning. And here's how much it's going to cost for me to do this work and learn, but I'm going to build you a really kick-ass site kind of thing, right? So we're getting up to the confidence level. Whereas when you get a little farther along, which I'm usually working with 6-figure entrepreneurs now, their confidence gap is usually in the realm of there's too much stuff going on. They're overwhelmed. They want to be doing what they want to be doing. They want to be only focused in their brilliant zone and they want to be shedding the other things. But they have this like either imposter syndrome or a combination of control issues, right? They don't want to let stuff go. They don't want to give it to someone. They don't want to have the VA do things because they might not sound like them or they might not do it exactly right, or it might create this problem or this friction. And then, suddenly you're in demand and you need to increase your prices and you think, gosh, no one will pay that for this. So those confidence issues come up, right? It's a totally different ball of wax. And when those come up, absolutely, it's definitely something that, isn't real, but it feels very real in the moment. And then you just got to unpack it and work through it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting because, I've worked with a lot of people who build a business almost based on referrals, like where they've almost had to do really no selling. Like people get referred to them, they go, sure, I could help you out with it. Here's how I could help. And like, bang, they sign up. And then they're getting into the space where they want to start attracting clients, which is normally where, I'm helping them with it. And they're like, yeah, but then, okay, someone's just come to me and now I've got to either have a conversation or something. And they're just feeling like they have to sell. What do you think is really driving that fear that they have of having those conversations or, having people come to them and them being the only one? Like it hasn't come from a friend or a referral. And why does that feel so different for us?
When people are having sales conversations, I think the number one thing that they have a fear of is the conversion from conversation to sales, right? It's like you have to like drop the hammer or something at some red hot minute and it's got to be perfect and then they're going to buy. But the truth is they have a really big problem and you're just there to facilitate, answering some questions and seeing if you're a good fit. I always like to shift people from not being afraid to qualifying their ideal clients, right? We're only working with perfect people. And it's hard. If you really want that sale, or if you're like aiming for that dollar amount for that month, and that person's going to make or break that, you probably don't have enough leads coming in. You probably aren't having enough sales conversations. So that's a whole other ball of wax. But you don't want to hang your hat on the one sales conversation or the one person. It's like a relationship. You don't want to be too needy. You don't want to work with them more than they want to work with you.
Yeah.
And if you are feeling that, if you're leaning too close, if you're, really grasping for this person, if you really want them, they're going to feel that energy and they're going to lean back and they're not going to be interested in working with you. And they're going to feel the energy shift and be hesitant. So instead of worrying about shifting to having the conversation of, when am I going to say, okay, this is how much it costs. And would you like to be working with me? And would you be interested in hearing more? Instead of worrying about that, make sure that in the front side of the conversation, you're really deeply qualifying them, that you're really feeling it energetically in yourself, that you're interested in working with them, that you're excited about this, potential, that you can see yourself creating shifts for them and changes for them. And when you lean into that part of it, most of the time, you don't even have to shift the conversation. Most of the time, it gets to a point where the person's like, hey, you know what? This sounds like your solution is really great. And I hear what you're saying. And you've given me the prescription I need for my problem. What would it sound like to work with you? And then you don't have to do that horrible part. You can skip the pitch entirely.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree. And I was just thinking, we're going back to what you said before, my brain, going in two different directions, and I'm trying to pull it back. When, you mentioned just before, so they were thinking, I don't know if someone's going to pay that. And so there's a lot of fear around, when the sales conversation gets to the point where you're asking, well, how do we work together? And then they've got to say the price. I think this is probably where I see a lot of my clients as well, really struggling. They're quite happy to get on a call with someone. They probably say so much on the call. The person's like, yeah, okay. And, how do we actually work together? But then it's when it comes to actually saying the number, it's oh my God. And then all of these things fire up and they get really nervous. And what I've heard some people tell me is that they will sometimes discount before they've even said the main price. They'll just say a discounted price, so they'll automatically undercut themselves. And other times they will say the price and then just carry on talking and try and just go on this great big ramble and not be able to stop. They're, I guess, trying to justify what it is. Other times they're kind of, going through a whole big list of all these things that you can get. And I guess you and I both know that someone's going to tune out after about one or two things and be like, I've got no idea what all the rest of the things are that
They've only heard them out. They just are there at your headlights. So go ahead, finish your question, because let's hear exactly what you want me to share, and then I'll help walk you through it.
Yeah, I was just sharing that because I think this is probably a lot of people listening can relate to that feeling of being in the call and just being like, oh my goodness, either I'm scared of saying the price, will they think it's worth it? Will someone even pay that? And then obviously that fear then comes into maybe discounting it, all of those things. So what would you say to somebody who's experiencing that at the moment when they're having sales conversations?
It's tough. They're right. It is challenging. But if they do the first thing I said, which is look at it as if you're qualifying someone, treat your sales conversations like an interview where you're qualifying the prospect rather than them qualifying you. Yeah. So you want to make sure it's a good fit. You have to be confident in your abilities, which I'm sure the majority of your listeners are. They actually have should have far more confidence than they already do. Secondary to that, when they go to present the price, if they're always presenting a discount, we'll break that one down first. First of all, why discount it? I actually have a very well-known coach that I know that immediately drops $1,000 off of her offer before she delivers it. And it kills me because I am not the right person to tell her because I am not her coach. But right away, I'm like, you shouldn't be doing that, because operating off of a discount is always a sign right away for your client that you don't believe that your offer is worth it. So instead of offering a discount right off the cuff, if you want to offer a reward for taking action on the call, which is a decision, I do not necessarily think that you need to close on the call. I always give people like a choose your own adventure type solution to their problem, right? Yeah. Some people don't want to close on the call. Some people do. Some people need to deliver a proposal. Some people don't. If you want to close on the call, give them a reward where you're like, this is the price point for what I'm offering, and it's going to make me feel damn good if you buy. But the price point in 72 hours, 24 hours, 48 hours, whatever it is a price point that is higher. And I'm really going to feel damn good about that one because I'm going to make more, but we're still going to have the same agreement. right? So that's the type of discount I think is valuable. You can say, hey, you know what? I like people who take action quickly. I like people who respond right away. This is what I do for them. But if you want to not give a discount at all, don't do it. Just state your price. And the reason why you do that is because you own the confidence of your value. So you want to be looking at your price point and thinking like, are people getting a 5x return on the investment? Is there a transformation involved? Do they have a improved quality of life? Do they have improved revenue? Do they have improved health? Like you've got to know your measures and your metrics and what that's shifting for people and how that makes such a difference. So why in the world would you discount that?
Yeah, exactly.
It just doesn't make any sense, but it will when you're panicked. It will when you're like, maybe this will make them buy. But instead of thinking, maybe this will make them buy, you want to think, maybe this will get the wrong person to buy because they're looking for a discount versus the right person. Because you're not Walmart. You're not the discount store. No. You're looking to sell to someone who values you up front. And if they're looking for a discount up front, they may not be your perfect client. So that would be my first advice for discounting people. For high ticket offer people who are laying out the big dollar amount or increasing their price, you want to have your stats behind you. You want to have thought about a story that you're sharing about a client that's just like them, where you created a result that they deeply desire. Then when you say the amount, sure, yeah, you don't say anything else. You don't have to stay quiet forever, but a good, 10 to 15 seconds is a good awkward moment. You are not your client's financier. You're not their bank. You're not the person who might be giving them the money because they believe in their business more than you do or know about. You are none of those things to that person. You are merely a value, and you can be an asset on their team or not. Yeah. And if they aren't there yet, that's not your problem. It's not about you. They're an adult. They're making a decision, right? So laying out those big numbers, it's going to be scary. But if you never do it, you'll never make it.
Exactly. Oh, I love that. I think there's a couple of awesome things to touch on in that. One is say the price and pause. Like that was one of the simplest things I think I learned right back at the beginning because I was terrible. I used to say on my very first sales calls, I said, I'll email you. I didn't even tell them the price because I was too afraid of saying it.
It's a secret society.
I was like, it was mental. It was crazy. And then I was like, okay, I'm actually an adult and I'm here to run a business. Let's put on the big girl pants and actually do this. But I think one of the best things that, like you just said, was the pause is actually like, the pause doesn't mean anything. It just means you say it, but you've got to give them a moment to actually absorb that information because you already know what it is when you're saying it. So you know that amount, whereas they're hearing it for the first time. And the pause isn't to make anything awkward. It's actually just to give them that moment to like take in the information and let it go into their brain and kind of whatever they're going to think or feel is what's going to happen. And you just need to give them that space, I think, to take it in and to not feel pressured and to not be listening to you trying to explain it or add in all these other things because that then feels stressful, right? Feels like you're desperate, like you said before. And, I think that pause is such a valuable piece of advice for people.
Oh. Yes, you're 100% right with all those things. But the other thing that people don't think about, Jessica, is what are they going to say in response? Because you've created the disaster pack in your brain. You're like, they're going to say no. They're going to say that's too much. They're going to say I don't have time. They're going to say I have to ask my husband. They're going to, right? So do you have a response for that? And I got a new one the other day that I absolutely loved. And who knows why, but I came out with a good response and I will give it to you guys because I think it's a good one. I said my price and somebody said, whoa, I did not expect it to be that high. Wow. So they didn't pause for very long. Like they stopped and thought for maybe like 5 seconds and then said, whoa, I didn't expect it to be that high. This is someone who knew me from the beginning of my coaching journey, right? So they kind of had a perspective of where I was earlier. And then I'd grown my authority and pricing, et cetera, as I was moving along in my business. So I said, great, let's unpack that. And that's all I had to say was great. Let's unpack that. I didn't go one direction or the other. I just said something and she unpacked it for me. So she told me exactly what she was thinking. She told me exactly why it was a lot. And then we talked about how we would break it down into all she needed was one client per month to cover the cost of working with me. Yeah. And I was like, do you feel like you would be making a good investment if you were able to achieve one additional client per month by working with me? And she's like, yeah, 100%. And I was like, great. So how does that feel now? Again, no discount, no, I didn't panic about the money. I didn't say anything. I just said, that's what you're looking for. And that solved the problem. She's like, yeah, I'm nuts. I said, well, you can believe in yourself or you can not believe in yourself. I just need you to know you believe in yourself and you believe that working together, we can do this for you. Because that would be a minimum viable standard that I would measure my coaching with. My consulting, my coaching, and my help should at least generate 1 client a month. Like, wouldn't that be horrible if we did less than that?
Yeah.
So
amazing.
It was easy for her to unpack it, to qualify it, and to make it make sense.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And that was a neat objection that I hadn't heard before. Wow. I didn't expect it to be that much. I was like, wow, I guess increasing my prices was a good idea.
But you know what is so funny with that is I wonder what she was comparing it to. So I
think former me, maybe. Yeah. I don't know. But yeah.
And like often, with pricing, that's the funny thing and something that, I love to kind of challenge people on, or sometimes challenge my clients because they're like, oh, people tell me it's too much. I'm like, well, what are they comparing it to? Like, what is you've set a price, but if you're not giving any context of what that means or what the comparison is, then they're comparing it to something. God knows what that is. Like, who knows what they're comparing it to? So if you're getting that feeling like, oh, they're saying it's too much, well, what is it that they might be comparing it to? And like you say, putting it in the context of your client, then if she brought on 1 new client per month, that more than made up for, that balanced out the investment and made it equal. So sometimes it's like, well, how many clients do you need actually to make this investment back? And do you think that you'd easily be able to do that by making this investment? Yes or no? And usually the answer is like, absolutely. How often do people make that investment way before they've even finished the program? Or, like they're like, wow, it's like completely exceeded my expectations. But in the beginning, they were just so worried about, spending. I think it's that whole change between spending and investing, right? We're thinking I'm spending this money, and so it's leaving, but it's like, but actually it's just a small investment to get so much more back. And there's such a huge shift in that way to think about it. And I love how you did that with your client. And hopefully everybody listening is thinking that's a really great way to have that conversation where you're helping them to not see it as an expense going out, but as in what they'll be able to achieve when they do it. And
you're not convincing, coercing, or conniving. You're not doing any of those things. You don't need to be doing that stuff. You don't need to be pressuring people. You don't need to make them feel like they're not going to, well, at least in my opinion, in how I do sales, I do not believe in doing any of those things. I believe in feel good sales, right? I believe in walking away from the sales call, regardless of the direction it goes, and everybody's still friends. They don't feel like you're an evil person who forced them into something, because buyer's remorse exists regardless of the investment, right? Like you buy a brand new Porsche 911 and you're really happy about it. I'll let you know when I get my Porsche 911. I don't have that. But right, you walk away from a really expensive investment in something and you could be over the moon ecstatic about it, but you're still going to have buyer's remorse. You're still going to have the hangover. So you can't have them walking away from the big investment and saying yes to you without a very clear outline in their head of, I'm safe, this is okay, this investment was the right choice, and I know with my brain how I'm going to resolve this buyer's remorse, right? They feel confident, and you can walk away from the call feeling confident too, that you know that they know. So when they get the scareties and they message you in a day or something like that and say, oh my gosh, like, is this going to be fine? And you're like, yeah, we talked about it. You know exactly what we're going to do.
Yeah, I love that. And thank you as well for sharing before that, you don't have to close on a call if you don't want to. You don't have to do it a certain way, because I think sometimes the confidence and the real lack of confidence probably comes from trying to follow some kind of method that maybe isn't feeling like it's quite right for you. And there's definitely a difference in doing it, actually doing the thing. And, of course, it's going to feel weird the first time, but actually deciding what is the right way for you to do it, like what feels good to you. And, I'm very much similar to you, where I'm not I don't tend to do the closing on the call, because for me, I'm like, well, I generally need to have a think about something before I do it. So I always like to give people that opportunity as well. And like, it's up to them if they want to sign up immediately, they can, but I don't try to incentivize them to do it. I'm like, it's entirely up to you. You want to take a day or two to think about it, do that. That's how I like to do it. But that's based on me. And of course, then that helps me be more confident because I'm not feeling like I'm doing something that feels weird and icky on the call.
It doesn't feel out of integrity with you. Like I'm 100% integrity in sales, right? It sounds like you do sales in a very integrity driven way where your authenticity and your integrity show up to the call and you're there to serve and you're there to help. And then people always say that, right? Like give them value and be of service and da, da, da. Those are all nice. They're cliche words. They're words that sound good. But when you're in the thick of it and when you're in the weeds of a sales conversation or making your offer, it doesn't, you're like, what do I mean? Be of service. I'm of service. Yes, this is service. Your brain is on fire. You need to have these like stand by, rock solid self-confidence and belief in what you're offering and know that you're staying inside your value circle and inside your integrity and you're being authentic with people. And if that means you don't like closing on a call because you don't like when people high pressured you to close on a call, then you have the choice to not do it. We've been fed a lie. We've been given like this masculine energy, how to close a sales call kind of thing. Whereas when we bring in our feminine energy and we actually help people and use that's the sales advantage that is of actual in integrity service. And the masculine part, sure. Yeah. You gotta send the bill. You gotta send the payment link. You gotta invoice. You gotta write the contract. You gotta do those things. That's all the masculine energy that we bring to things. But it doesn't mean we have to follow the bro culture of, oh, if you're not doing 30 sales calls a month and you're not closing 10% of them, then you're a failure. Volume isn't typically the feminine way that we do business. We do business because we're here to make a better world and to help the right people move forward, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you brought that up because I think it's just been something I've been thinking about a lot lately. And there just seems to be so many people, I'm not sure. There must be somebody out there telling people just to find someone online who looks like they might be a vague fit for what you do and to jump into their inbox or their DMs and, pretend to have a conversation. Some of them don't even pretend. They just go straight to this like, hey.
Straight for the kill.
Yeah, I've got something that can help you. I'm like, I don't even know who you are, random person. Why do you think that I'm even one part interested? Because I'm not. And the way that you're talking to me is turning me off faster than a cold shower. It's just so interesting, isn't it? And what do you say with the difference there in the sales approach? Like, because what I'm hearing from you is that the masculines like go out there and like make it happen, make the sales, do all these calls. I think when we look at the data, it shows us that they are really low converting when you're doing that type of activity. Whereas when you've got someone who finds you, comes to you, reaches out, books in a call because they want to have the call, that to me is generally what I coach my clients to do because I'm like, look, your conversion rate straight away is so much higher. I also feel like this is a difference in the confidence as well and really how you're feeling in that conversation because you're hearing somebody's come to have a chat with you to see whether there's a good fit and you might be able to help them. Do you want to talk a little bit about your thoughts on the whole outreach approach versus the inbound approach and what you tend to talk to your clients about, or how do you advise them with that?
I don't believe in, and don't get me wrong, I've done all the things in the course of my sales career. So I have done cold outreach 100%. I will do it in a heartbeat. It doesn't bug me at all. I am the sort of person who's like, I can help you and I will do cold outbound marketing and sales calls and things like that. Don't do it anymore, but I totally have done it and it doesn't bug me. I have very broad shoulders. However, most people can't do really great cold outbound marketing because they don't pre-qualify the people that they're speaking to right away. And they've been taught, like a pretty shady, salesy, pushy, all the icky words that we hear people say that they believe about sales, right? Tactic at doing it. And they're like, if you reach out to 100 people in a month, you're gonna hook someone. Well, it's a little bit different when you're running your own business. And then if you're running, say, an agency, right? So who are you bringing in for your team or staff to work with? Or who are you bringing in for you to work with when you do those kinds of cold outbound outreach? You're bringing in people who you're coercing, pressuring. They're usually stressed out. You're using slimy kind of tactics on them to move them into a relationship with you where they give you money for a result. And those people are like the least perfect clients on the planet, right? Because they're motivated by fear. They're motivated by stress. They're motivated by overwhelm. They're willing to talk to an absolute stranger and put all their trust in them because they're desperate. So those are wrong clients. You don't want to work with them. If you're doing one-to-one, hell no. If you're doing group, it's an even bigger monster because they're the worst, right? They expect results that are 200 times what you can deliver because they're that panicked. They're at the end of their tether kind of people. The people who you attract through attraction marketing are actually thoughtful. They're conscientious. They're not operating out of their willful brain, and they're interested in you as a person. They kind of like your personality. They like what you're doing. They followed your content. They're interested in the solutions and the results you have, and they're curious enough to have a conversation with you. And 99% of the time, they're already sold.
Yes.
The conversation is the 1%. That's it. They're just coming to talk to you to be like, where do I sign? How do I go further? What are we doing here?
Yeah.
Right? They're getting clarity on the close. They're not getting clarity on you or whether or not they like you or whether or not they really actually trust you. They know.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for saying all of that. You're like, it's just exactly, I think we're on exactly the same page with it. And just, I'm almost speechless, I think. And I was having trouble getting that word out of my mouth. Just so speechless. It boggles my mind, literally. Like, why are people doing this? Like, what do you think I'm thinking? This is like the modern day version of door-to-door selling. You've turned up on my doorstep, you're there, and you're actually sticking your foot in the door so I can't close it, going, but, you know, I've got this thing that can really help you. And like, or they're just trying to ask questions. And I've seen them, like, they're trying everything. And it's like, oh, there's a mutual opportunity. Like, let's have a chat about a mutual opportunity. I'm like, okay, mutual opportunity is a collaboration. That's not me signing up as a client. So then when your next question is, what do you want to achieve from your coaching this year? I'm like, you've now moved that into a sales conversation. I didn't say that I'm interested in finding out anything about you or that I'm interested in that at all. You know, that is a very different feel. And to use those sort of tactics, I think is really setting, the integrity level is so low. Like you were saying before, you know, really lacking in integrity. And who is it that you're attracting? Like, people say to me, oh, you're a coach, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, that doesn't make me instantly your ideal customer just because I'm a coach. There are a million coaches. And actually, I had an even funnier one this morning. They said, we're both in business. So I thought, they were like, yeah, we are. But there's a million business owners out there. Like, that makes no similarity between us at all. Like, what is it that you think that we've got some sort of alignment around? Not the fact that we're both in business. It just makes me, I laugh and I keep trying to think of some really wacky way to respond and say, hey, so you tell people that you can help them get clients, but I do that without doing any cold DMing. And so would you like my help with that? So you can stop wasting all this time on these ridiculous messages going back and forward. Anyway, I probably shouldn't even engage in the conversation in the first place. Sometimes
I always want to ask them, how's that going for you? Like, how much? But if you're willing to do the work and that's your level of consciousness, I guess, I mean, kudos to you for cold DMing people. It's the hardest work on the planet and it's high volume and low return on investment and low quality clients that you get, right? So to me, not worth it. I'm sort of lazy. I want to work, you know, smart, and I want to work with the right people, and I want to work with people who get results. And those people don't respond to cold DMs.
Yeah, 100%. We're very much on the same page there. And I think there were some really great points that you had in there as well. Like, anybody, you know, I heard somebody say they'd been to a conference recently and the person on the stage told people to cold DM and gave them a script. And so there's like people literally there listening to somebody who's a thought leader telling them to go out and do this. And I'm like, oh, I don't know how to help people, how to say it. And I hope that you've heard what Dorothy just said as well, but it is time consuming, low converting. It can really, if you've got all the time in the world, then that's great. And it's your choice to do it, but have a real hard think, because it's not the only way to make a sale. That's not the only way to attract customers. You don't have to go out and try to coerce someone into having a conversation with you. It's far easier ways, right, when you can actually attract them in. So I appreciate you saying that, because I think we can't say it enough at the moment. I really hope that the penny starts dropping lot more.
And I think people will always do it, but I think it's volume based, right? I always want to say sort of, and this is an insult to people who sell really good products, but it's product or commodity based is how it works, right? It's like when you need that much volume, but you should be able to create that much volume with the right product or commodity. And as a service provider, I hope to goodness you're charging enough that you don't need that much volume. I hope to goodness you have a process in place that allows people to be nurtured and join you and sign up and pay you what you're worth than to have them, have to do so many sales conversations. That would be your entire life, right? It's just not. And if you are at an agency level, then there should be a whole lot of automation happening for you, right? That isn't making you have hundreds of sales conversations a month, because that would just be exhausting.
Yes.
No one wants to do that.
I think that's, some of them say, would you like to have 40 appointments a week or something? And I reply back and say, no, not on your life.
No.
The last thing
I like talking to people. I really do. Goodness. I love meeting new people and talking to people, but I also like to make money. I have a business to run. I can't just talk to all these people. I'm sure they're wonderful. I just like to talk to the right ones more often, not 40 a week of randoms.
I'm like, what else do you think I would be doing in my life? That would literally take more than a full-time job, right? 40 conversations. Anyway, I think I digress. So what I'd love to do is, I think with confidence in having these sales conversations, if we could wrap this up with maybe 3 of the top things that someone could think or do that would help them feel more confident going into a conversation, what would that be? And feel free, if you've already mentioned it, we can always repeat it, but I thought it might be good just to leave them with what's the takeaway grab of the 3 top ways to get rid of the fear and to feel more confident in those conversations.
Okay, I will do my best. Number 1, I would say, we'd had a conversation about this before the podcast, and I love the question because you were talking about how people are actually secretly better at sales than they think they are. And you are, because when you were a kid and you wanted something, you were really good at asking your parents, can we get a pool? Can we get a pool? Can we get a pool? Can I have a pool? Or I want this gift. I want this gift. I want this gift. So you need to engage your inner child and your inner excitement about things. And then you need to ask yourself, if you're not particularly excited about every damn person that that's an awesome fit buying what you offer, then what do we need to do to make it so that you are? So you can get that, can we get a pool? Energy behind your offer. So that would be my number 1. You're secretly actually really good at sales because you just need to get excited about what you're selling and how it serves them and the transformation it creates. Then you need to be excited about the price point you've put on something. Right?
And excited about actually selling and having someone come in. It's like, if you're not excited about it, why not? What part of you doesn't want this? And
yes. And sometimes it's too much work.
Question.
Yeah. Sometimes you've built the wrong thing. Sometimes it's too much work. Sometimes you need to streamline. That's what I help people do.
You need to raise your price.
Sometimes you need to increase the price because too many people are saying yes. Okay. So that would be my number 1, that you are secretly better at sales than you think you are. You just don't think you are. Number 2 would be try to pre-qualify them, like we talked about before, and do your very best to collect no's. If you're really uncomfortable with sales conversations, then just do the collect the no's game. Just predict in advance that everyone's going to say no and see how many no's you can collect in that week. Make a game of it. Or you can make a game of collecting yeses, whichever feels better. I'm a stick person, not a carrot person. So I need to have a little bit of pain and pressure on me. And I enjoy collecting no's. But if you like yeses, then collect yeses, but make a game out of it. So how can you make this fun? How can you make it entertaining? How can you make it a game? How can you lean back a little bit and relax a little bit? And who gives a flying kahootie if they say no?
Yeah.
You just add it to your etches on your bed or whatever, you collected your notes.
I think that's like what you said before earlier. And it's probably really good just to bring that in here as well, was you said, if you got hooked on it, this person, I have to get this one because I want to make my number this month, or, they would be the one. And you're thinking about it this is the only one. There's no others. If this person doesn't say yes, then there's nothing. And we both know that that's not true. there's always more. There's more people out there who have what you need. Another one might pop up tomorrow. And so I think taking that fear of like, oh my God, what if they say no away, and being like, well, they might say no. They might say yes. Either way, I'm cool. Like
You're stealing my third tip. 100%.
Oh no, the scarcity.
100%. But I like it because it segues nicely. Good job, Jessica.
Okay.
Okay. So my last tip would be prepare for the objection. So, collect all the no's and the objections you can, and be curious and ask why, and then get some details on that. If you keep hearing no too often, if it's broken, fix it. We can fix it. Everything's fixable. Oh my gosh, everything is fixable, right? So if people are saying no to your higher price, like if you increased your prices and they're saying no, or if the particular new offer you're launching just isn't hitting it, it's a flop. I've had plenty of flops. That's fine. We can just fix it, right?
Yeah.
So being prepared for the objection in advance. So face your boogeyman. What are they going to say? Get a piece of paper out and write down all the things that people who say no to you are going to say. What's the worst that could happen? Now, what are you going to say back? Are you just going to say why? Are you just, I like how you were like, oh my gosh, I have to say
something. Are you asking me a question?
No, but what is, if they're getting their top 3 tips, what are they going to say to the objections? Because instead of being like having this running list in your head when you're in the sales conversation, know in advance. It's like the rule of Boy Scouts or NASA. We're prepared. We're always prepared before, right? So if you know all of the worst results, you see the people in Stranger Things, they just keep getting less afraid of that scary crap. By like the 3rd season, I'm in the 3rd season of Stranger Things, in case you don't know. By the 3rd season, they're talking about Wade Vecna's curse or whatever. Sorry for anyone I'm spoilering, but you get to that point and they're not really that scared anymore.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, we've seen this like 2 times before. Hawkins sucks. It's kind of cursed. There's some things happening. Let us tell you what we've already seen. Now we'll help you deal with yours. It's the same thing with an objection on a sales conversation. Sorry for anyone who does watch Stranger Things. That was a rant, but that's what they need to be preparing themselves for, is prepare yourself for the objection. You'll feel a lot better about handling it. You'll know how to respond, and you'll be able to lean back and be confident and know it's not about you.
Yeah.
That's probably like a 4th tip, but same thing.
Yeah. And I think it's like, I was trying to think before what the difference is. And I think it's like when there's a different energy, like you mentioned before, where you're really wanting to make the sale, and then you're probably thinking, I've got to convince them about it. And I've got to, if they have an objection, oh my God, like I've got to say something that's going to change their mind. But I think when you also said it's really the difference in the energy you bring, and like what would change when you actually say, you know what? I'm here, I can help you, but it's up to you. You're an adult. You can make your own choices. You can choose to take my help. I'm offering you the olive branch and you can choose to take, or you can choose not to and stay where you are. That's fine. That doesn't mean anything about me. That doesn't mean it's their decision. All I can do is hope that I've given them enough to make the right decision, but to hold the space for them and to be like, there's space here. We're in a safe place, and you can make that decision without feeling scared or guilty or anything like that. And I guess, just trying to come to it from that position of, is there something that is holding you back from making that decision? Do you have a question? Like usually an objection doesn't mean they're trying to say no, like, no, this isn't the right fit for me. No. It's like, it is the right fit, but there's something that's just bugging me, that little thing that's there that's holding them back. So how
can be a million things.
Because
like can be clarification, right? Can be, is there a payment plan? Like how many times do you hear the objection of, like, I don't know if I can afford that right now. And then they're scared to say, is there a payment plan? Do you allow me to go month to month? Can we break this up? Whatever. Like people have that all the time. That's why it's on sales pages where it's like pay in full payment plan, because people immediately go to that moment where they're like, I'd really like to do this, but it's $5,000. But if you broke that up over 3 months, I could do this. Like those are the types of objections people who are on sales conversations are really having. They've done the mental gymnastics to talk to you. They are present. They are there. They are ready. And if you've said the right things in advance to prescribe to them the right solution, if they see you as an authority, they're already there thinking, she's going to tell me exactly what I need to hear to get me on the straight and narrow to get this problem solved. Yeah. So they're probably, their objections are a lot smaller than you think they're going to be.
Yes.
And you're just manifesting this big boogeyman that really isn't going to be a problem.
Oh, I love it.
It's nice to say from our point of view. I should say we've gotten to the point where we're doing good sales calls and we're making good conversions, right? That when you're having the problems with sales conversations or you're increasing your price or you've got those fears, those are very real. And that's fair. But hopefully this was helpful and people got some value out of it.
Yeah, I hope so as well, because I think that, well, we've both been in those shoes where it's felt awkward or weird. Probably me a lot more than you because you did sales as a job. But, I think it's so good for you to share all of those thoughts about it as well, because this is probably the one area that most people say they fear the most in business. And I think it often, it leads to things like, well, it's just easier if I wait for referrals to come from people rather than me generating my own clients, because then I don't have to have those conversations. And that I think it's like when we can actually just put aside that need to have a yes, and it's okay that they say no, like you said, like that tip, like count the no's. It's okay, they're going to say no, and be prepared to help them through that decision making. So it's not that you've got to be able to attack all their objections, but it's more like, if there is an objection, that you're with them on this, like you're a team, like give them the space and let's like help them work through it, help them see it from another perspective. Because I really think that when we can take the pressure out of that environment and you can sit there and feel calm on a call and be like, I'm okay if it's a yes or a no, like it's fine. The sun will still come up tomorrow. Everything will be cool. There'll be another person that pops up because this isn't the only one in the whole world who will buy from me. When we can remove all of that, then you can, the energy changes. And I think that people really see that. And it brings in what you're talking about here is that confidence. You can just see the confidence when someone's calm and they know that you're like, well, I know I can help you. Would you like my help? It's more like an invitation, right?
I have a funny story. Do we have time for a funny story?
Sure, go for it.
Out if you want. Okay. So someone came to a sales call recently with another person, not me, and she brought a PowerPoint. The client, the person coming on to the sales call with the salesperson, brought a PowerPoint. And I commented, because we were doing kind of like a roundhouse masterminding peer kind of conversation. And I said, oh my gosh, I would have said to that person, if we were working together already, you wouldn't have wasted any time creating this PowerPoint presentation in our sales conversation, right? To have a sales conversation, because I would help you understand the things you should be spending your time on versus what you just spent a lot of time on that was a wasted amount of time. Yeah. And she said, oh, I wouldn't do that until I had that person as a client. Maybe if I had them as a client, I would say that. So one of the things I think that is really important, especially in sales conversations, is that you be as brave as you will be in real life. When they've paid the dollars, it shouldn't make you more courageous and more brave. A sales conversation should have you showing up as who you are. If that is that urge to say something delicately, respectfully, politely, yes, you don't beat somebody up, but if that comes up for you, that's part of what we learned in coaching, right? Being courageous for people and holding space for people and saying the things. That person needed to know that now. That person, regardless of whether they pay you or not, needed to know in advance. So if you feel those bubbly little moments and thoughts come up in your sales conversations and the air kind of gets tense and tingly, take a minute, take a deep breath and say to yourself, like, does this person need to know this now? Could this help them now? Because if you can be courageous for them when they're in that point where they're like, oh, I'm not really sure. Like, I want to do this, but, and they're scared, you need to be courageous enough to say, is this about being afraid of the success you're going to have? Or is this about you being, not wanting to do this? Because if it's about you not wanting to do this, if it's a hell no, then we're both friends and we walk away. But if it's a hell yes, but I'm scared, because your job in a sales conversation is to be brave and courageous and to call that crap out.
Yes, I love that, because we're always just focusing on our own fear, right? And like how we're feeling nervous and forgetting the other person is probably feeling even more nervous because they're the one who's about to, or thinking, am I going to sign up? Am I going to do this or not? So I love that, because suddenly we could go, well, actually, now we're holding the space for the other person who's feeling more scared than you are. That, I think, can be so huge, just that perspective shift, and actually then being able to be the courageous one for them can actually just completely lower or diminish our own fear, because instead of focusing on our fear, we're now focusing on their fear. So, I love that. What a great.
And she had that thought. She just didn't share it because she thought she would hurt their feelings. And I was like, no, you would help them. You would help them to make the decision to be like, oh my gosh, yeah, you're right. I am wasting a lot of time on not investing in myself and not doing the things that are important to my business. Yeah. And you would show them that you know the path, but without saying anything and with letting them go on their merry way.
She's going to do it again to the next one and the next one.
To the next conversation she has with someone, and she's still going to sit on the fence. Your job in a sales conversation is just to get them off the fence. It really is. They can stay on their side of the fence, or they can come over to your side. But they got to get off the fence.
Yeah. And like sometimes the reason that they're not is they're perceiving getting off it's going to be more painful than, or staying on it is painful, but it's not as painful as getting off. And it's like, well, how can we make it seem less painful to get off the fence? Because otherwise they're just going to stay where they are and stay stuck.
Mm-hmm. And growth is painful.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it is, but that's what we're here for. Mm-hmm. If you wanted to stay stagnant and you wanted to stay safe, then you probably wouldn't be on a sales conversation with somebody.
No, that's true. And probably not in business, right? Go get a job.
Yep. And then it's unfortunately becomes our role to be those people who are like, yeah, you could 100%, you could stay where you are. Sure. How you liking that now?
Yeah. I like that, because like I love to think of growth and transformation being painful, a bit like the caterpillar and the butterfly. Like the caterpillar literally decomposes its entire body inside the cocoon and rebuilds a whole new body, a whole new being. Like that is messy. It's hard. It's time consuming. It probably hurts a bit and probably doesn't feel that good to decompose completely and then rebuild. And so it's like, yeah, when we're thinking about what we're doing, like it's far, far less than that. It's far less uncomfortable than what a poor caterpillar goes through. So I'm sure that in order to be our next butterfly, we can have a lot less pain, but just to know that the growth is what is required. Like it's got to get in that messy bit. We've got to have a little bit of uncomfortableness while we're transforming and transitioning. Yes, my little analogy. I like to share it.
I think it's a lot nicer if the poor little caterpillar had a guide or had somebody's shoulder to cry on while they're decomposing into a butterfly.
Someone to talk them through it. It's okay.
Someone to be like, I know it seems really watery right now, but you're going to really look beautiful at the end of this.
Oh, that's so good. I think we could talk on this for a long time, Dorothy, but we will wrap that one up for today. And I'd love you to share with the listeners how people can connect with you. Where do they best find you? You know, what do you have for them if they want to find out more about how they can be more confident in their sales?
Sure. This has been great. I've had so much fun, Jessica. Love it. Okay. So where do I live? I've got some Instagram. Most things you can find me at Dorothy Villeneuve Coaching. Hopefully we can put that in the show notes, because God help you if you have to spell my name. I apologize in advance. I married into the last name, but I have a Facebook page that you can find that way. And from that Facebook page, I would love it if some of your listeners would like to voyage on over to Wildly Confident Sales, which is my Facebook group. Mm-hmm. And then beyond that, as my little treat for everybody, I do like to offer people my high converting sales page checklist, a 14-point checklist with some descriptions and some examples and a video tutorial that you can download. Amazing. You can find it at dorothyvilleneuve.com/resources, or you will find it in the show notes, I imagine too. But yeah, that's a really good asset for people. Anybody who's making stuff, I will tell you right off the hop, write yourself a sales page, even if you don't publish one and have a fancy one, because when you go to make your offer on your lives or on your podcasts or wherever you do your thing, wherever you write your emails, that sort of thing, having that high converting sales page checklist and all those points written out and done will make a world of difference as to how you share what you do.
Absolutely. And it helps it all roll off the tongue a lot easier, doesn't it? When you kind of know what it
you're
is
prepared. You know the things people want to hear.
Love it. Thank you so much. This has been a really great chat, and I hope everybody else has enjoyed it as much as I have. We've had a really awesome time today. So thank you for joining us. I appreciate you being here, appreciate your time, and we will talk soon.
Thanks so much, Jessica.
Do you know something? There are so many people that are overcomplicating their marketing, which means that they're running on the marketing treadmill, pumping out so much content, but still not yielding those results, meaning there are no clients actually signing up. Like, what use is an audience if they're not an audience of buyers? What use is it creating great content to share if the people who are reading it have no desire to take that next step to actually working with you? Well, if any of those things are happening for you right now, then it's highly likely that you're simply missing a key in your marketing strategy. And those keys are really simple. There are just 5 of them. And it's about how you align them, put them together. That is the simplicity that makes everything work, just like clockwork, so that you have a consistent stream of what you would consider your dream clients literally turning up in your inbox, ready to have a conversation, ready to sign up with you without you going out there to find them. So let's put an end to cold outreach. Let's put an end to searching for clients in Facebook groups. Let's put an end to just waiting around and relying on referrals to come through from other people. Because when you have that consistent stream of clients, then you're in the place of being able to choose. You've got an abundance of opportunity out there, and all we need to do is turn on the tap for your clients to find you. So I've created a brand new training, and it's called 5 Keys to Clients on Tap. So you can guess what it's about, can't you? Well, this 1-hour short training takes you through those 5 critical keys that you need to have in your business so that you do have clients on tap, and not just any old client, the ones that you most want to be working with, that are going to make you profitable, that are going to fulfill you, are going to make you feel like jumping out of bed every morning because you love your business so much. So you want in? All you need to do is head to jessicaosborne.com/TMF for the magnetic formula. So TMF, and get yourself into the next session that's running for this training. You honestly will not regret it. It is going to change your business, your life, if you've been experiencing any of those problems I mentioned before. Look forward to seeing you in there, and let's do this.